How's it going, everybody? All right, so today we're going to be doing some screen sharing, so it looks crazy at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and go into the first one now. So, if you're in real estate or ever curious about real estate, keeping current matters is just probably one of the most fantastic websites that you can go to get information and different things. So, I pulled up 3 articles because I keep having conversations over and over and over again about people asking, well, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Are we in a housing bubble? Is it about to crash? All these different things. And I keep coming back with the same answers where I'm like, no, it's not. We're safe. And I came across this article today and I was like, you know what? This is definitely something we need to talk about. This is going to give us the answers that we're looking for about why we're not in a housing bubble, why our market today is so different than it was 15 years ago when we had our last crash. And even though I've said these exact words over and over again, I know Brian Burns and I have talked, and he says the exact same things over and over again. People just are so terrified that we're about to see another crash. Now, with Russia and Ukraine and other issues that are going on, I have no magic ball news as anybody else, but this is the differences between today and where we were back in 2006, 2007. So, a recent survey revealed that majority of consumers feel that they're about to be going into a housing bubble, and in one form or another. So I want to go through we're going to go through this thing because it's the conversations I've had over and over again about why we're not. Houses are not unaffordable like they were in the housing boom. I know that is a weird thing to say because housing prices have gone up so much. And to give you that point, I just tried to sell a house for help one of my clients buy a house recently. It was listed at 305. We offered 330. We're putting over $100,000 down cash. We didn't get the offer. What's crazy is I went back and did some research on this home. It had been sold the year prior for $260,000. 2 years prior to that for 190. So huge amounts of increase in value in that property over the last couple of years. So to say that it's more reasonable today than it was when it was $150,000 is a hard thing to understand. But you have to understand where these numbers are coming from and how they create the affordable package. It's kind of a 3-tier system. Conventional lending standards say a purchaser should not spend more than 28% of their gross income on their mortgage payment. So if you are actually doing an FHA, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, you have to stay within the 28% of your gross income to be able to make that payment. Well, 15 years ago, prices were high, wages were low, and mortgage rates were over 6%. Today, prices are still high, wages have gone up substantially, as well as mortgage rates, even with the recent spikes, are still lower than the 6% numbers. So with that situation, there's even a graph here that shows the average number we're looking for is about 28%. In 2007, it was at 34.1% ratios, where today, even with the higher prices, it's at 25.8. So we're still seeing a much better ability to buy a home than we could in 2007, right before the bubble burst of what happened. 2, mortgage standards were much more relaxed. If anyone was in real estate 2005, 2006, I guarantee you they will back this up. You qualified for a loan just with fogging a mirror. It was insane, as well as there was a lot of weird financing going on, 100% financing, 80-20 financing, a lot of different things where there was no skin in the game for a lot of people. Whereas in today's market, it is much more strict. There's much more strict lending requirements set in place to make sure people are serious about purchasing the home. And if you've purchased a home recently, you can agree lenders are definitely checking and making sure what needs to be done. As well as there was a much higher number of people with very bad or riskier credit scores than now. So lending standards have tightened since the crash. As you can see, the number of homes in 2003, 4, and 5, and 6 with extremely high billions of dollars with people who had credit with under a 620 credit score, whereas 2019, 2021, we're seeing extremely smaller numbers. So with that being said, people have better credit when they're getting the loans, which means there's a better chance that they're actually going to pay the loans back. So it's a much better system than it used to be. Foreclosure situation is nothing like it was during the crash as well. Now, that's kind of and it even says it in this article, it's kind of a double-edged sword in what we're talking about today, in the fact that so the last 2 years we've had kind of a moratorium where people could be on. That being said, the 4 years previous to the crash, you had over 2 million people in a foreclosure or pre-foreclosure situation, where right now we're looking at 38,000 to 129,000. Even using the moratorium numbers, there's only 800,000 people in that program today, and a lot of those will be able to work out a repayment plan with their banks. So there's a lot better, there's a lot fewer people in that pre-foreclosure risk currently than there was prior to those foreclosure situations. Kind of exciting to see. Also, in the run-up to the housing bubble, some homeowners were using their homes as personal ATM. We were seeing multiple refinances, pulling money out of the property to purchase other properties and do a lot of different things. Whereas today, homeowners have learned their lessons, and prices have risen nicely over the last few years, leading to over 40% of homes in the country having more than 50% equity. So I'm going to repeat that because that's a huge number, something you can repeat and sell to people. Over 40% of the homes in this country have a 50% equity in their home. So even if something does happen, they can sell the home, pull money out of the home, do whatever they need to do. That's a huge opportunity in this community. The average home equity now stands at $300,000 nationwide. And that is not what happened in the past. I mean, as I said, I'm guilty of it too. I know the first 2 homes I bought at 100% financed. And I mean, they don't do that anymore unless you're VA. VA, you've got skin in the game, and the fact that you served our country and you're willing to put your life on the line. So it's a whole different situation in that regard. Last one to talk about on this article, and then we move on to the next one, is we don't have a surplus of the homes on the market. We have a shortage. Right now, we're looking for 6 months supply to be a normal real estate market. Anything above 6 months, and prices are going to drop. Obviously, anything below than 6 months, we're going to see prices rise because there's a shortage. Supply of homes is nothing like last time. So for the 4 years of the housing crash, you had between 8 and 9 months inventory. Right now, we're looking at 1.8 to 3 months of inventory at any given time. So there's not enough properties on available for the people who are doing it. Now, I've got 2 more articles, and one's going to talk about why there's so fewer homes on the market, and as well as some other things. So just something for all you guys who are worried about this. It's a little information for you to go back and talk to your clients who are worried, hey, I'm going to buy a house right now, the housing market's going to crash and I'll be underwater again like I was last time. It's a better chance than not. If it's worth $300,000 and you buy it for $400,000, you'll probably be underwater because you're paying $100,000 more than it's worth. But that's another conversation in itself. The other one I want to talk about is the difference between renting and owning. You know, we hear it a lot. I see people all the time rent the same home for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And it just makes my blood boil, because I'll be 100% honest with you guys. I own a real estate company. I have a very large rental department. The only time it makes sense to rent a home is if you're renting from me. Yeah, it's a joke, and I understand there are times when people need to rent. You know, soldiers are here for a short term. People are doing what they need to do to fix their credit. But renting a home in the long run just doesn't make sense, guys. I'm the first one to say it, and I have rental property, so it doesn't really make sense for me to say that, but I'm gonna. So the difference between renting and owning, I mean, should all be simple to understand, but it's not. For some reasons, people don't get it. When you rent, you're building your landlord's wealth. When you own, you're building your own wealth. Remember, every time you make a rent payment, that money's gone. You get nothing back for it. It's gone. Every time you make a mortgage payment, you're paying a little bit of that loan off, and you have that much more equity available for yourself. When you sell it, when you do something, when you move on, it's yours. Your monthly payment will generally go up each time you sign or renew a lease. We're seeing that happening now substantially. Now, this is kind of a misleading statement, because a lot of the reason the rents are going up right now is taxes have gone up substantially as well. So even if you own a home and you have a fixed mortgage rate payment, your taxes are still going to go up. So your payment is still going to go up every month, but it's not going to go up to the degree that you're going to see a rental department go up. Because if I own a home and I'm renting it out, I have to rent it out at a cost that's going to cover the cost of renting, the cost of managing it, the cost of paying all the bills. So it's going to be cheaper for you to own it than you to rent it. That's just a simple fact. Plus, you get the tax deductions for paying taxes and all those opportunities. Plus, you get the ability to make it your home. Unless you live in a homeowners association that stops you, you can paint it whatever color you want. You can go in there, tear down a wall, do this, do that, and you don't need permission from anyone other than if you're tearing down walls, of course, getting permits from the city. Rental price appreciation puts a pinch in your wallet and has no benefit for you, whereas home price appreciation pads your pocket by growing the value of your investment. When Nick and I took over and started working for this company in our rentals, our average rental was probably $700 a month. Right now, our average rental's probably closer to $1,200 to $1,300 a month. Whereas if I own my home and all the homes are now worth $400 instead of $300, I just gained $100,000 in equity. Whereas if I'm renting, I'm paying a much higher rental price. So that's where that comes into play. So I want you guys to get your heads around this. It's not as black and white as we try to make it on these forms, but there's true value in owning a property. As rents rise, it's harder to save for down payment and escape the cycle of rents. Over time, you can build equity in your net worth, which helps fuel your next home purchase. If you have 50, 60, 80, 90% home equity, then that really frees you up with the lender to say, hey, you can go out, get a new loan, purchase a second mortgage for either doing an Airbnb, a rental property, a vacation home, whatever you want. Whereas if rents keep going up and up and up, you're just shelling out more money every month and getting no benefit for it. So I really am strongly going to say, guys, if you're renting right now, unless you're in a situation where you need to be able to leave in a hurry, you're military and that's a reason why, or something else is going on, it just doesn't make sense to rent, guys. I would love to say, hey, renting's awesome. It's not. There's a reason for it. There's a service for it. A large number of our renters are military and they're here for a short period of time. We have the Sergeant Major's Academy, which is a 9-month academy. Obviously, you're not going to buy a home if you're here for 9 months. So there's definitely always going to be a need for rental properties, and that's what we're here to help you with any of your needs. But if you're going to be in a home for a long period of time, take advantage of the benefits of home ownership. And that's just something I'm always going to preach and always going to yell. Now, that being said, what is driving the high buyer demand today? We hear about this over and over again. Where are all these buyers coming from? How come there's no inventory? There's no inventory, and that doesn't make sense to people. But why is there no inventory? What is causing and driving this higher buyer demand? Home buyers this year remained in the market to take advantage of current rates before they increase further. So if you've been on the fence and interest rates have been low for an extremely long period of time, they're starting to go up, you're going to run in there and get it while it's still relatively low. That is one reason we're seeing an increase in the market. Millennials are reaching peak home buying age. Millennials are now moving out of their homes, moving out of apartments. And we're seeing, especially with COVID over the last 2 years, where there's a lot more ability for people to work out of their homes. So they're leaving their small apartments in the cities and moving to areas where they can actually have a home, have a yard, have a pool, and do what they want to do. I think that's helping as well. Buyers want to escape the rising rents. We just talked about that. Rents are going up substantially. And with that, they want to get the value of owning the property. Well, the rent's already at a high and expected to keep going. Rental affordability will increasingly challenge many Americans in 2022. For those thinking about making the transition from renting to buying their first home, rising rents will remain a motivating factor. These are just things to think about, guys. There's a lot of reasons why, and I think a lot of it is that a lot of people were in these large cities for their jobs. The jobs are now realizing teleworking is working. You don't need to be there, and they're going to places where it's a lot more cost effective. So a lot of those places are seeing a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity. So these are just some thoughts, guys, as far as what's going on, how it works. I hope it was helpful a little bit. And I hope it was something that you can take away with, especially the one about the bubble. Unless some craziness happens with Russia and Ukraine and different things of that nature, of course, nobody has a crystal ball and can tell us the future. But where we are right now, I can see as being for a while, because the banks have done a much better job of making sure anyone who's trying to get a home is qualified for that home. They're putting down substantial down payments. And just making it a lot more affordable. I've seen more cash deals in the last 2 years than any year prior. There's just a lot more opportunity for that. Now, that being said, it's making it harder and harder for the middle class to be able to get the homes that they used to be able to get. And it's just, I mean, a lot of buyers are going through that fatigue of I've written six offers and I haven't been able to get one. So keep trying. I understand the issues, but it's tough. But when you own it, it's yours. So that's just a little bit, guys. I hope this was helpful. Some conversation for you to have when you're out there talking to people, or if you're watching this and you're not in the real estate industry, just something to give you a little bit more understanding of what's going on in the current marketplace. With that, guys, that's all I've got. We'll talk to you next time. Appreciate it. Maybe. It's still going. It's still going. Still alive. Gonna juggle.